All right, today guys, we're going to try to address an issue or a question I get asked a lot. What is the difference between ICF bracing and what's the pros and cons of each? So these are the three probably most common forms of ICF bracing that I'm familiar with. This is what we would consider a mono brace. This would be considered a giraffe brace. I've actually owned a set of both of these. And this is the plum wall brace we have on demo from them. So we're going to start off with the mono brace. A couple things right off the bat that I really like about this brace is if you look right here, it's all self-contained in about 3.5 inches. This brace stores very nice. It's easy to put away. And if you guys, I'll throw a picture of it on my brace rack I can get about 40 of them on it. It's self-contained. They're low profile. I just really like the way they fold up and store. The other thing I really like about these, and I know it's kind of a little bit something odd to mention, is the way the foot stores. They got little locks right here, and it just slides right down in there. I'll show you guys here on the plum wall brace here in a little bit. They actually got a pin down there. The pin works great. It's just not quite as convenient as that. So with that being said, let me kind of walk you through the process of getting this brace set up, show you how it works, and then I'll cover a few other things about it. Keep in mind these braces are well used. They've probably got, I'd say well over 200 ICF pores on them. I did buy them new. I've had them for about 15 years probably. I started off with 50 of them and I'm down to 45. So one thing is bad about these, they can be a little bit of a finger pincher. They're supposed to have a pin that goes through right here to hold this in. You got two arms that fold down, they interlock, and the one brace I grabbed this morning don't have the pin to lock it in. So what we normally do is we'll actually fold this out when it's on the brace rack, and then we'll carry it over to the wall in this position. So we'll carry it over to the wall just like this, stand it up against the wall. Once it's up against the wall like this, you can just lift this up, slide it down out of the way, and then throw a screw in it. Now I'm just going to throw one screw in it for demo purposes here. Now once this is up, we always store this pin right up here, come down, find you a hole. One thing you'll notice about these mono braces is look at how many hole options you got. So you can pretty much always find a hole that lines up. That's hardly ever a problem. Pretty quick, pretty easy to set up. Nothing too crazy about it. Now that it's up, there's a few things that I will tell you I don't like about these braces. You can adjust the height on them. I've done it twice, and I promise you I'll never do it again. I'd probably buy another set of braces and put it at a different height. They are miserable to adjust the height of the walkboard. The way, for example, this pin here, it's got to go through a couple different things. These pins here, I don't know why. I don't know why it looks simple, but it's not. You end up with a whole bunch of pieces trying to put a bunch of stuff together. You end up with smashed fingers. It's just not, I've just not had a pleasant experience adjusting the height on them. Like I said, we've done it a few times out of necessity because we had to. It's nothing we do. It's not like the other two systems where adjusting the height is very easy. These here do have a handrail that goes up through here. I do have all the handrail brackets. We use those occasionally, especially we're on second floor pours. Basically, anytime we get our feet 6 feet off the ground, we do normally put those in. I love the foot on this one. It's got a big hole right here. We drive our rebar pin in. It's right next to the turnbuckle. That foot works very well. I do not care for the threads being exposed and being down in the dirt. We have issues like on this job site here where we got mud and ice. We'll have issues with those getting dirty. These here have been damaged from something hitting them, probably a sledgehammer hitting them, driving them in. They end up taking a lot of maintenance there to keep that turning. The other thing is they don't have any type of handle on this to turn it. So if you're pushing on a wall pretty hard, you got to carry a crescent wrench or a pipe wrench or something like that along with you. But that's pretty much the ins and outs. I don't believe this company is in business anymore, to be honest with you. You guys may know more about that than me. I believe they've got bought out, and I think plumwall is now considered the new mono brace, but there's a bunch of these braces out there. This is the most popular system for a long time. If you never get your hands on some used ones, as long as you get your walkboard height set, I would highly recommend them. The only other thing I want to mention about them is they don't have a whole lot of accessories as far as doing tall wall extensions or different things that'll clip onto it, or your adjustment here for your turnbuckle. On this job here would be a good example. We were able to adjust the plum wall braces to accommodate that offset in the footer, where with these braces we had actually put a 9-inch 2x4 block down and set the block on top of it to keep our walkboard height all the same. But that's pretty much the mono brace. Like I said, we've used them for a long time. They're good braces, but they're just not quite as convenient as some of these other ones. So with that being said, we'll move on to giraffe braces. Now, if you guys have followed the channel for a while, I've owned these giraffe braces for probably 6 years. And I've probably only used them on the job site twice. And there's a reason for that. I'm not a big fan, and I'll try to explain why. So first things first, let's get it set up and I'll show you how she works. All right, first thing I want to point out, to set this brace up, you basically got to carry 5 individual pieces in here. You got your walkboard bracket, you got your turnbuckle bracket, you got your stiff back, and you got 2 goofy looking pins. So first things first on these, they are pretty handy and easy to set up, especially with one person. Screw the stiff back to the wall. All right guys, so now that you got your stiff back on there, the way these work, you bring this in next, stick this goofy little pin through everything here. Lock it in basically. Then you take your walkboard bracket, it's actually got a hook on the back side of it. It hooks in behind there, then this pin here goes in the next hole. You tell it's been a while since he's been set up. There you go. Well guys, there you have it. They're actually very easy to set up. My issue is all the pieces and parts. Especially on a muddy day like this, you end up with all this stuff laying down there in the mud. Those pins are not just pins you go down to the hardware store and pick up. They're actually a specialty pin if you want to do it right, where they lock on the edge. I can pack that brace or that brace in here over my shoulder, no issue. That brace is almost guaranteed to be 2 trips. Once it's set up, I do not like how the profile of the stiff back's made. It puts very little contact area back here, which makes the brace very wobbly going back and forth this way. And there is no way, this is the only brace I know of, there's no way to actually attach the walkboard to that if you want to. The plum wall braces have a screw hole. These actually have a 2x4 up here in the top, so you can tack that walkboard down or attach it to the brace if you need to. Now, a couple things I do like about it is the turnbuckle on it. All the threads are encased. They're up here high. They do have some handles on them here, so you can turn it, pretty easy to adjust on it. A little bit different style foot. I don't quite like this foot as much as that one, but that one's not bad at all. Actually, if you turn that foot around the other way, you end up with a pretty decent little hole right there where you can put your rebar peg in, and that works pretty good. Like I said, the adjustability of the walkboard height, it's really easy because you have to put it whatever height you want every time you put the brace up. These do have a few accessories to go with them. I think you can get extensions for that. I think you can double stack some of these, and they do have the walkboard bracket. I got those down home. What we have normally used these for is if we get into a goofy situation with a gable wall or a stair wall or a freestanding living room wall that's over 12 foot tall, we'll usually break these out because we can manipulate them a little bit more than these. But for my everyday, day-to-day pours, as you guys seen, this is pretty much it here. It's just quick, easy, slam, bam, let's pour some walls. So giraffe bracing is not bad bracing. I mean, it works well. We have poured walls with it, not had any issues with it. There's just some features and some conveniences of it that I'm just not a big fan of, and that's why it's usually not my go-to brace from the lot to drag to the job site when we get out here. So with all that being said, let's take a look at the Cadillac of all the ICF wall bracing. All right, so the first thing I want to point out on these is how thick they are and how they actually store compared to the mono brace. These are about 5.5 inches compared to about 3.5 inches. So they take up a lot more room in the crating and they don't quite store as easy. One advantage of them is, though, the way they got these designed is this actually works for a really good handle to pack it in and out of the job site. I don't have a good way to weigh all these. If I had to guess, this one and the mono brace are very similar in weight, within a couple pounds. The Giraffe brace is actually quite a bit lighter, mostly because it comes apart. So, to set these up, got 2 pins. One out here, one out down there on the foot I was talking about. The way we've been going about this is you pull this arm out. This arm here will actually come down, and it's got a lock right here. So it kind of locks in, finds you a hole. I do like the mono braces because it has a lot more hole options, but these still work pretty well. So once you get that done, you can kind of come in here, grab the brace, and you just kind of hinge it up to the wall. Still a one-man operation. This is one thing we've noticed right off the bat. This is what we attach our braces to the wall. It's basically a number 10 hex head screw that you'd use for metal roofing. The coarse threads and the washer on it makes it ideal. We usually run them in with an impact. You got a DeWalt 20 volt impact with a standard 1/4 inch nut driver bit, and you can't get it in there. It's not quite wide enough versus this one, or this one where you got all kinds of room. I know it's a small thing, but that's one extra bit or piece you got to keep track of in the mud to get those attached. I'm not for sure what quite the solution is there, but a little bit of an inconvenience on the narrowness of that to get in there to put the screws in. A different impact, a different bit may not be an issue, but it's just something we have happened to notice. Now we got the brace up on the wall. There is so many things about this thing I actually love. If you guys notice, look at the different shape and bracing on where the turnbuckles hit. On both these styles braces here, the turnbuckle actually pushes up there on the wall. On this one here, we actually got a much wider walkboard platform. We got screw holes here to attach our planks if we need to. But the turnbuckle actually pushes out here on the walkboard, which we found gave us a lot more leverage on manipulating that wall, especially when we had to pull it back. These don't do a very good job of doing that. These seem to do a much better job because it's more of a fulcrum and a hinge instead of just a dead pull. Works very, very well. I also like this platform here and this setup. If you're up there walking on the walkboard, it keeps the brace much more stable this way, and it don't seem to quite give underneath your feet as much as what the other ones do. Now, one major difference with these and the other ones is it does have the enclosed adjuster, but it's on the top side, and it's actually done with an 1 1/8" socket on a drill or an impact. On pour day, we absolutely love this system. It eliminates a lot of communication and turns a 2, possibly 3 person job into a 1 person job. On stacking day, I wouldn't say it's a nuisance, but I don't find it quite to be the advantage, because sometimes when you're stacking, you just want to manipulate a brace just a little bit, and you're up there with a pair of pliers doing it because you don't have the tool down here. Not a huge deal. It's just something else you got to keep around on pour day versus just reaching on one of those and turn them. But like I said, on pour day, I wouldn't have it any other way. That system works awesome. I got several videos on the channel of doing that. One other thing is the foot. You can see this one here has a little bit different style foot. I know Plumwall has a couple different things in design to do that. That one I believe is actually made to drive a wood post down in, which I believe it worked for that. If we were pouring a second level while we were screwing to a subfloor, that foot would work awesome. On a job site like this, it's just not quite ideal. I prefer those other 2 foots there. Not really a big deal, just something I kind of wanted to point out. But all in all, we've poured twice with this system now, and the second time around it's quite a bit different than the other 2. The second time around we kind of figured out the nuances of it, what to do, what we did right, what we did wrong. It's definitely my preferred system out of the 3, mostly because of this geometry right here, the adjustability of it right here, and that it still folds up. There's not a lot of pins, there's not a lot of pieces. Everything's right there together. And as you guys see in our video, adjusting walkboard height is fairly easy. Basically, you just have to pull out 2 pins right here, and if this thing's laid down horizontal or at a 45-degree angle, you can just slide that whole mechanism up and down, and look at all the options you have compared to the other ones. You can basically go in 4-inch increments, top to bottom, where the other ones you're basically going in foot increments. So the adjustability of that thing is through the roof. Speaking of adjustability, that's one thing I love about the plum wall braces. They have tall wall kits, which this is actually the bracket right here. Basically, you can put this on top of one bracket. You can stack one brace on top of another, continuing on, which is kind of where the top shape of that, I know we discussed in some other videos about the sharp edges up there they addressed. That's one reason that's kind of shaped that way, is because they got different options to keep on going up. They do have the walkboard bracket. One feature they do absolutely love is they actually got a secondary walk plank that you can pin in here. I've got one up above. I'll throw a picture up. Pouring gable walls, that would be huge, where you're stair stepping up, or if you've got an ICF wall that slopes, having that option would be a huge advantage. So for the adjustability factor and all the options they offer, out of everything I got here, plum wall would definitely be my first choice. Some old mono wall bracing would be my second, and giraffe bracing would definitely get the job done if you needed it to. It's way better than nothing. So one other point I want to make real quick before we wrap this video up is actually the brace racking, which is how it comes shipped to you and stays organized on the job sites. There's actually quite a bit of difference between the three of these. One other thing I do want to cover real quick is the brace racking. This is the plum wall system. I believe it's about 35 to 40 inches wide, and then it's however long the braces you order. There is different heights of braces you can get. Very nice system. It comes with the lifting eyes on it. It's a tubular system. You can also fork it. They go a little extra and put the actually will cut your logo in the end. That's not just for me. They'll do that for anybody. They have their logo on the other end. And one thing that is a little bit unique about these is you can actually get 24 of the braces per rack. Most systems, you can only get 20 braces per rack, so you get an extra 4 braces per rack. There's 3 rows of 8. So let me run back to the lot real quick and I will show you the other 2 systems I have. All right, guys, this is the giraffe bracing rack. A couple things about this one. It's made all out of angle iron. It has no lifting eyes on it. It's very inconvenient to scoop up with a set of forks. It can be done, just not near as robust or as well built as what I think the plum wall one is. It also takes a specialty 2x4 block. It's just, you just can't grab a 2x4 block to stack everything in there. Just not a big fan of it. It is smaller than the plum wall one. The other thing I want to say is you can only get 20 braces on there, 20 braces per rack. This here honestly is my favorite setup of them all. This is my mono brace rack. I actually built this one. We've had this as long as we've had the braces for close to, I'd say close to 15 years now. But basically this setup, I can get 20 braces per side. We can get 40 braces on here total, which is normally enough to do the majority of the ICF jobs we do. We use 2x8s for walkboards. They sit right there on top. So you got your braces, your walkboards, and then we got a bucket right there with all of our stakes in it. We hooked that right there over the edge. You can get your forks in here to do it with a skid steer. We normally have a traco on the job site. We just take the traco and then we actually set that down in the hole from the top side, and we are good to go. So that's the bracing racks. Hopefully that answers a lot of questions on the ICF bracing. I know we don't do a lot of it here on the channel, but that's all we did for about 7 to 10 years was pour ICF. So got a little bit of experience behind us, and yeah, it's like I said in the previous video, if you're going to do much ICF, you got to have a good bracing system. It makes pour day and the quality of your work so much better. So before we wrap this up, a couple other things I want to hit on real quick. One other question I get is, what do we use to stake down our braces? We actually use a piece of 5/8 rebar with a washer welded on it. We go through a couple of these a year. That's why we build them cheap. And in most applications, these work really well. We got some short ones, we got some long ones, and I'll usually get a couple years out of these before we damage them and have to rebuild them. And when we do, you pick a rain day in the shop and just build several of them and don't get too worried about it. That system has worked very, very, very well for us for years. The other thing I get a bunch of questions about is the ICF vibrator we got. This is an external vibrator for a drill. We prefer to do mostly external vibration. We've not really ever had any issues with honeycombing or voids in our wall. And the reason for that is if the drywall guy ever comes back, on external vibration, it keeps that wall a lot straighter. Internal vibration, if you look real close, you end up with just a little bitty bow between all those. Sometimes if you got a bundle of rebar or you got a really congested spot, you have no choice but to do some internal vibration. But that is our tool of choice. I used to have 2 of those. Guys, I get asked all the time where I got that thing from. I bought it from a company called Windlock. It used to come from our new Duracell flyer, and they no longer offer it. I would like to buy another one, and I can't find one. So if somebody can figure out where we can get one of those, if you want to post it in the comments down below, I'll pin it to the top, and we'll go from there. So, but I think that's going to be a wrap on this one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned a few things. If you got any questions or anything I didn't cover, drop a comment down below and we'll check her out. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.